theme to make it a little more interesting for the presentation. And can anybody guess what the theme is this year? It's the Tour de France, right? So, are any fans of the Tour de France? People watch the Tour de France? Okay. If you're not familiar with the Tour de France, it's no problem. We'll talk about some of the terminology, but we want to try to have a little bit of fun with it. So please enjoy it, or at least tolerate the analogies that we make in telling you about this. One other thing I want to mention is that there's another talk this afternoon called Building a Business with Cincom Talk. I believe it's at Cincom Smalltalk. I believe it's at 2 o'clock. And Dirk Verlacing and I will take you through basically using Smalltalk and some Cincom Smalltalk tools to build pretty much from scratch software to support a small business. And it was a really fun process for us to go through, and we think a lot of people can get something out of that. So a few weeks ago, our Smalltalk marketing guy sent out an email blast saying, what does Cincom Smalltalk and the Tour de France have in common? Trying to get some interest in announcing this talk. And one of the funny replies I got was I don't know. Do half the Cincom Smalltalk engineers use illegal drugs? No Cincom Smalltalk engineers use illegal drugs to my knowledge. And they've passed all their tests. But it actually got me thinking. You know, I've been involved with Smalltalk a long time. I started using it in 1986, and Smalltalk is addictive. It's back in the 80s. I was looking for better ways to do software development, and came on Smalltalk, and it was so much more powerful, so much more capable. It was very attractive. And then, of course, we have things like the debugger, and we really take those a lot for granted. We're so used to them, we use them all the time. But rather than doing an autopsy on a dead corpse when you have a problem, you're live living in the code, trying to fix things, changing the values of the objects and trying new things, changing the code, instantly recompiling. I mean, that's like, well, yeah, we're so used to that, but not everything has that. And it's that instant gratification is one of the features of Smalltalk that are so addictive. So here's some of the contents I'll be going through. And of course we have the TdF for Tour de France, and also the analogy is TdF is our Tour de Force Cincom Smalltalk products of Object Studio and VisualWorks. So let's talk about some TdF or Tour de France terms. One of the interesting things is that the Tour de France, there's teams on the Tour de France. And where are the teams from? They're from all over the world. Not only that, a team from a certain place doesn't have riders just from, a French team doesn't have just French riders. It has riders from all over the world. So it has international teams and international riders on each and every team. So it's really an international event, and the common theme there is the bicycling. And here, we're at an international event, and the common theme is our passion for Smalltalk. I'll talk later a little bit about the team manager. Each team has a team manager, and that person is generally somebody who's ridden the Tour de France before or was a professional bicyclist before. And that's really important because they're not going to take somebody who's been really successful running Donut World down the street and put them as the team manager for the Tour de France. They want somebody who has a deep, intimate knowledge. And I mean, sometimes it's good to have a general person doesn't have that to run things at a higher level. But when you want somebody who knows the intimate details, it's really important. And at Cincom, we have that. I'm a product manager. I don't come from a marketing background and have no experience with Smalltalk whatsoever. I've been doing developing, training, writing training courses, consulting with Smalltalk since the late 80s. Suzanne also, who's our program director for Smalltalk at Cincom. She has a long history with starting with Digitalk, Park Place Digitalk, Object Share, Cincom. So she knows the community, she knows the people, she has a deep intimate knowledge of all the players. So that's important. The Peloton, you know, familiar, that's the big group of riders in the Tour de France race. And the big group of riders often stay together because it's more efficient to ride together as a group. Because when you're on a bicycle, you're doing a good speed and going through the air, and the people at the front are doing most of the work. In fact, if you're behind another rider, you're using from 5 to 40% less energy. And that's really important for the riders to save energy, so they ride together. People that break off out front, they call those breakaways. Another term is the GC, the grand category rider. Each team generally has a GC rider, and they're basically trying to help that rider win the Tour de France. So that's the GC rider. There's generally one person on each team, and that team is trying to help that rider win. The domestique. A domestique rider is a really important rider on the team. They're somebody who does a lot of the work, and they actually sacrifice themselves. It's a very noble cause. They sacrifice themselves and their own overall standing to help the other riders. So they'll basically get out front and break the air for their GC rider or sprinter or whoever. So each team will have a number of domestique riders. They're basically there to help the team. So when you see the peloton and you see the people out front, those are generally somebody in that role for the team, a domestique. And they're trying to keep other people saving energy for the sprint or to try to win the Tour de France. Jerseys. Generally at the end of each day, they give out a jersey, sometimes to the same person. And the white jersey is best young rider. The green jersey is the sprinter jersey. It's for whoever has the most points for sprinting. There's generally at the end of each segment and in the middle, there's a sprint point. I believe that the first 10 riders to cross that get a decreasing number of points. Whoever has the most points at the end of the day wears the green jersey the next day. The polka dot jersey is similar to the green jersey, except it's for hill climbing, so it's the king of the mountain. And the vaunted maillot jaune, or yellow jersey, is whoever is currently leading in points for winning the overall prize in the Tour de France. So we're going to be giving out some awards also and jerseys for the Smalltalk products. So our Tour de Force product history in the recent past, present, and future goes from Object Studio 8.2 up to currently what's out is 8.4. Later in the fall, 8.4.1 will be out. For VisualWorks goes from 7.7. Right now, currently, we are at 7.9, came out recently. And later this fall will be 7.9.1. And I'll talk more about the version numbers and changes that we've done in a little bit. So the Peloton, if I'm to find an analogy for the Peloton in Smalltalk, it's our Cincom Smalltalk Foundation. That's the VM and libraries that are shared by both products. So we put a lot of resource and effort, and all the effort that goes into that goes to improving both of our products. And the Peloton, the people that go out in front of the Peloton are the breakaways. So we have our breakaway products out in front of the foundation, and those products are Object Studio and VisualWorks. What I'm first going to be talking about is some awards for the foundation. Now there's awards, some things that can be used or found in both products. And the first award I'm giving is the International Community Award, and cross-platform capability gets an award for our cross-platform capability in VisualWorks. Also, we are our wide Unicode VM for all our platforms as well. So those are some things that help us meet a broader and international community. White Jersey, best new product feature. In the past, we've made major upgrades and revisions to our WSDL and SOAP at the request of customers. And actually every release since then, we're also continuing to refine and work with customers to make sure that they meet their needs. Also in the past, COM had a complete revamp, and it's really quite capable and powerful. At present, the White Jersey Award goes to our external encryption option. We've had a whole suite of internal encryption capabilities for years, and we also, for flexibility and capability, added external encryption to give you more choices. In some circumstances, it can be a big boost in speed because some encryption is handcrafted assembler, highly optimized. And also some groups need to meet certain standards. It's dictated exactly which option we'll use. So we like to give those options for people using our products who need those. In the future, best new feature, two things. IPv6, I've been saying for a while, certainly that customers are going to need that feature yesterday, all of a sudden. And we're starting to see that now. It's a top priority we're working on right now. And the other thing I'm pretty excited about is our text editor work. I talk to a lot of people, potential customers, new customers, and one of the things I've heard a lot is, well, it's really good with our products because there's all these goodies that you can add, you can bring in and run to enhance our browsers for auto-completion, highlighting, all kinds of things, and that's great. But they said, most modern environments now have things like auto-completion and highlighting built in, and maybe we should consider that. So I sat down with engineering and said, okay, what's the best path forward? And it was recommended our text editor, which by the way has been around since Xerox PARC days, really well designed and has lasted up until now. Maybe with all the changes in editors over the last 3-4 decades that we could do some things to better support some of those features that we want for the community wanting to add in things and for us wanting to deliver those capabilities in very fast and top-notch and well-designed form. So we decided to redesign our text editor, which is undergoing, is being done right now. And there's a lot of really positive things falling out of that I'm very excited about. So new text editor in the future for a foundation for a lot of our work. The green jersey, Sprinter, and what's the analogy? A sprinter is something that we aggressively pursue, an aggressive sprint. Sprint also means in agile terms an experiment. And we do lots of research and development. We'll send off an engineer for a couple weeks, try out this new idea, or they may do it. They may do it on their own also. Experiment with some ideas, and then they come back and say, "Hey, I'd like to talk about this. This looks really promising." So in the past, we have delays in the product. Delays, that's actually a class that people use in code. And as operating systems changed over time, the delays needed to change, and in certain circumstances, they would break. Some they would work absolutely fine, but some cases, in some used in contexts, the delays would break. So we have an alternative set of delays to fix most of those issues. At present, the Sprinter Award goes to Skins, which is an innovative approach to solving some UI problems. There's always been, since I've been with Smalltalk, there's always been a debate, what's better, emulated widgets or native widgets? And there's pros and cons to both. This Skins approach takes an interesting approach, which in some senses tries to get the best of both worlds. It does native rendering on Windows and Mac, so you get a true native rendering of the widget, but you still have full control and customization over that widget. In the future, the green jersey goes to the text editor because of all the, and I'll be talking more about that too. Polka dot jersey, the mountain climber, so climbing to new heights. In the future, we're going to be doing some things. We're doing some things right now with fonts too, but we're going to be revamping our font frameworks. They've evolved over time, and we need to be able to take more advantage of the different fonts on the platforms that we run on. Store our code repository. People want to do more configuration management with it. So 2 years ago after ESUG, the engineering manager and I went on what we call the store tour, and went and talked to a number of customers went into their shops, and they told us exactly and showed us how they use store and issues. And so we've been basically working on a roadmap to improve that since that time. And one of the big things is configuration management. And also, we're not just trying out some ideas and pushing them out to our customers and saying, here, try this, this should work for you. We're actually using it internally. So we're making sure they work and they work for us before we subject any people of our customers or developers to it. Another thing, we've revamped Store over time, completely revamped it, and now we're paying more attention to speed. There's some circumstances, most general circumstances it works fine. There are some circumstances where we want to improve the performance, and we are working directly with some customers to make sure that that happens. That's definitely a concern to me if somebody's having an issue with one of our features. The Domestique Award. I really like this one. The Domestique, that's that noble person who really sacrifices themselves and helps make things happen. One of my favorite features in the product is something called polycephaly. And that's a framework that came out some years ago. I actually challenged our engineers. I said, give me something that's small talk simple that lets us take advantage of multi-core processors. Because if you have a 4-core processor and you're running one image, you're using 25% of your machine. Well, what kind of throughput could you get if you could use 100% of it? So polycephaly tries to answer that question and lets you basically, very, very easy to use, spawns off headless images, so you don't even see them, and you can hand them work, and they can each run on their own core. So you can spawn off a number of processes and run those all concurrently. It's not a panacea. We haven't invented anything magnificent or new that we're claiming solves all concurrency problems. But generally with concurrency, as the power of using concurrency goes up linearly, the difficulties go up exponentially. If you've done concurrent programming, you probably know what I mean. So polycephaly basically gives you 80% of the power with 20% of the difficulty. And when I first started talking about polycephaly, I was a little bit concerned because I wasn't hearing much feedback about it. And a little later, I started hearing much more about it. And basically, people just adopted it. It worked. They had no problem. And they were happy with it. So I started hearing, oh yeah, we use polycephaly. We increased our throughput on our testing suite, 3x. Things like that. So it can't solve every problem, but it solves a lot of problems. It's really easy to use. And if you're not using it now and think you might be able to, I highly recommend taking a look at it. Polycephaly. Polycephaly, number 1 on my Domestique Award. Polycephaly 2. You said, okay, well, now what can we do to follow up that? And what Polycephaly 2 does is also allows you to use remote computers as well. So not only your multi-core processor, but if you have other machines on the network that are idle, you can hand out more work and even take more advantage of idle computer power that you might have sitting right there. So basically, it allows you to use a grid. And you could have done things like this for a long time with our product using other things like OpenTalk STST for remote communication, even whole distributed Smalltalk. We have some heavyweight solutions, but polycephaly is light, simple, easy, and solves lots of problems with a minimum of fuss. Domestique also to me means kind of maybe the person that's doing a lot of work but isn't really recognized. For those type of awards, I give to our improvements in garbage collection performance, our improvements in database driver performance. They're things we use all the time, but we may not realize it. But we've been improving and refining performance in those areas. For the future, Domestique Award will be some other things people use all the time. The code browsers, code completion, and code highlighting. You can do them now. We're going to build them in. And for the kind of unrecognized award, to do this really, really well, we need to extend the capabilities of our text editor parsing, which is a highly optimized parser specifically for that. So we are extending that to best optimally do these improvements. So that's another one of those areas where we're putting resource into improving, and you may not recognize, but it's critical for making this happen. The vaunted Maillot Jaune. For the past, I give that award to polycephaly. It's so capable. It's the noble framework. For the present, polycephaly 2, which is in preview right now. I welcome you to try that out. Adds in the ability to use remote computers. And in the future, we've got lots of things that we are exploring and looking at and seeing if they make sense to pursue. So we always have a number of possible good things in the future. Object Studio, the businessman's thinking tool. You'll see some of the tools from this in action later this afternoon for a Smalltalk application. And it allows business architects and developers to work together to solve some issues. But what awards can we talk about to it? First, the International Community Award. I believe it's the only Smalltalk with the Windows 7 compatibility logo. More International Community Awards. In the past, we moved it from its own VM to the shared Cincom Smalltalk Foundation VM and libraries, so we can put more resources in to improving both products concurrently. At present, we've moved the mapping tool to the shared mapping tool, which is a state-of-the-art object relational mapping called GLORP. We use that extensively in the product. We contribute significant amount to the GLORP open source project. And in the future, we are evaluating right now, it's looking very good, moving both products to a shared COM, so we can pick the most powerful and move that forward rather than have two separate COM projects. White Jersey Award for Object Studio. In the past, we had to revitalize the modeling and mapping when we moved to the new shared foundation. At present, the mapping tool moving to the shared OR mapping technology. And in the future, we are working on right now a more flexible, powerful GUI framework. And for the last few minutes of this presentation, I'm going to ask Andreas to come up and just tell you a few things about it. But it's a major and welcome change for Object Studio that we're really excited about. Some aspects of that also may end up in the foundation and improve all the products. So it's some really good work. Green Jersey's Printer Award. In the past, Object Studio was the only Vista certified Smalltalk. Present Windows 7 logo, and in the future we will continue with Windows certifications. It's important to some. Polka Dot Jersey, the Climbing to New Heights Award. In the past, Object Studio 8 was the big move to the shared platform. At present, something that you'll see this afternoon is something we call round-trip engineering. It's a capability that most similar products do not have. And in the future, well, we've got a number of things on the plate, some I can't talk about. The vaunted Maillot Jaune Award goes to the new GUI work that you're going to see in the last few minutes of this presentation. VisualWorks. VisualWorks is the cross-platform, do-anything product. So for the International Community Award, in the past, we basically had some locales for internationalization work, but customers said, we need more. We've got these applications, we want to reach a broader global audience with these. So we moved to a CLDR-based internationalization, and we've continued every release to make improvements and move that forward. Also, we know Seaside is important to this community, and we want to make sure anybody picking up Cincom Smalltalk products can use Seaside easily. So at freeze time for each new version, we take the latest, greatest Seaside release and package it and make sure you can load it and use it easily in the product. At present, we have something called Xstreams, which is a new streaming library. It's some experimental work that was done by a couple of our very bright engineers, and they basically rewrote that like 4 or 5 times from the ground up because they were dissatisfied with some of the capabilities of standard Smalltalk streaming. But we also knew if we came out with a new streaming convention, the best use is if we use that for all Smalltalks, to help move all Smalltalks forward. So with Cincom's blessing, Xstreams was put out in open source for the community to experiment with and use. And I see there have been some projects that leverage the capabilities of Xstreams. It's some good stuff. In the future, in the near future, we've got better font rendering and kerning coming out. The ability to meet, those fonts will also meet Unicode 6.1 standards and rendering of non-Latin characters. I talked earlier about some of the text editor work that's going on. Recently, in one of our calls, we have a lot of communication going on with our regular calls, and one of the internationalization team engineers called me and said, "This is fantastic." He said, "I am so excited with the work that's going on in the editor because they've been working with some of our guys and scratching their heads trying to figure out how to solve some issues for working with fonts and doing certain internationalization work. In the past, we were looking at things like integrating Pango, and that would have been good because it's a solution to a lot of things. It would have been not so good because it's non-Smalltalk. And the internationalization engineer said to me, "This gives us 80% of what we wanted Pango to do for us, and it's all in Smalltalk. It solves a lot of problems like non-Latin characters and a lot of other improvements." So we're getting a lot of nice fallout from the text editor work. Internationalization is one of those. Best new feature award in the past, the project launcher. If you install VisualWorks on a Mac or Windows, we've always had this icon that just basically lets you start up a regular image. But then if you save that image with a different name and come back later to that icon, where's your work? Well, we know how that works as Smalltalkers, but to somebody brand new to Smalltalk, how do you take them through that way of using the product? Well, the project launcher helps them. It basically starts up a blank image, lets you name it, and saves it as that. When you come back to it, it gives you a list of all your projects, so we'll start that image. If you don't like using that, it doesn't impose anything on you. Everything else still works the way it always did before. And also on Mac and Windows platforms, they actually don't want you storing your image in the read-only area where the rest of the product is stored. This also solves that problem. So it's a nice use of that icon that we kind of wasted before. It was pretty, it sat there, it would do a little bit, but now we're doing much more with it. And also the project launcher, that application can be the foundation for a lot of other enhancements in the future. So if you have ideas or specific things you'd like us to use that for, I welcome new ideas. For example, maybe in the future, you can go in there and say, "Oh, I want to do a web application," click. "I want to use this memory model," click. "I want to use Seaside," click. Press a button, it configures that for you and names your project. Things like that. Lots of potential. Another thing, Smalltalk was instrumental in the graphical user interface, pioneered it. And it's really important to us that people have the capability of doing stunning graphics and attractive applications using our products. So one of the things we've done to that end is integrate chirographics, the ability to use chirographics to do some very advanced capabilities in the product. At present, best new features, Windows 64-bit. We have 64-bit in the past. Our largest used platform is Windows, and lots of people were really waiting for the Windows 64-bit. What's the advantage of 64-bit? The big advantage of 64-bit is that it gives you a very large object space. So maybe before, where you had to read lots of things in, do some computation, read more things in, and get rid of things because you only had so much space. On Windows 32, you can only address up to, Windows itself can only address up to roughly 3.5 gig of RAM memory. On new PCs, you could easily throw 30 gig of memory on, and Windows 64 can access all of that. And you have access to that too. So you can have some massive object spaces, read all your objects in, work on them all. And if you're in the situation now where you've got to kind of bring things in because you can't fit them all to do some computation, this could be a huge performance improvement. With Windows 7 64, I think it's the first 64-bit Windows platform that lots of people are moving to. I moved to it. It runs everything I ran in the past with little or no problem. So it's really the first Windows 64-bit that is really practical to move to. So we see lots of adoption and lots of people using the Windows 64-bit. The Domestique Award. In the past, again, polycephaly. I love polycephaly. If you're not using it now, take a look. It's really neat. At present, and these are some of the things that are kind of not well recognized, but needed. For Windows 64-bit, because that is so popular, we have a number of other things to go with that you may not think about. Okay, if you're using Windows 64-bit, you need COM64. You may be using Oracle 64 or ODBC 64. So we have those things in the product for people using that technology. So those get the Domestique Award. Green Jersey, in the past, the changes we've made to delays get the Green Jersey Award. Skins I mentioned, that's an important new UI approach that we introduced recently and are continuing to move forward. It's just introduced at this point to get more feedback and put more development into. And in the future, the Green Jersey Award will be going to the phone work. Climbing to new heights. In the past, years ago, we put out 64-bit versions of our product for Linux and Solaris. And it worked okay, but it was far from the capabilities of our 32-bit products. So we invested a lot of work into bringing the capability of our 64-bit platforms up, because like I said, it was far behind our 32-bit in what it could do. So we really need to do a lot of work to bring that up to where we felt it should be. And that's benefited all, including the Windows 64. It's been a very good investment for us and our customers. At present, we have completely, over the last few releases, completely revamped Store, because we know how significant and important Store is. I mean, we've had Store for 10 years now, and customers use it to store their code, merge their code, manage their process. A lot of customers make customizations to Store because you have all the source code. Of course, most products you can't do things like that, but it's really important. And we've revamped it completely. Why did we do that? Because we realized going forward, it was really important, and we needed to make lots of changes to support a lot of the ideas and suggestions and requests from our customer base. So we said, what's the best thing for the long term? And we didn't want to hack it to the point where it was brittle and difficult to work with. We said we need to revamp this so it's a solid foundation for moving forward. So you're going to see a lot of improvements and capabilities to Store coming up over time too. One of the things in the future we'll be working on now, Store configuration management. And the vaunted by Ojama, the Yellow Jersey Award. The past goes to polycephaly. The present, the external encryption that I talked about before, which gives you much more flexibility in terms of your options for using encryption. Lots of encryption choices, both within Smalltalk and external libraries for integrating into your applications. In the future, I talked a little bit about, we're really excited about the work going on in the text editor. And that's also foundation work for built-in auto-completion, built-in code highlighting, a base for community improvements. The community has done lots of great things for the text editor, and we look forward to those in the future. Immediately, we're going to have better font rendering. It's going to meet Unicode standards. And I also mentioned rendering of non-Latin characters, which also is a big boost to our internationalization work. Sprints. I mentioned before, a sprint in Agile terms is doing some R&D work, and we are continuing to do some research and development work into new ideas. I mean, I basically have two things that I'm really concerned about, and we're really concerned about. We want to keep our current customers happy. We want to attract new people to Smalltalk. We want to grow the community. We want more people falling in love with Smalltalk. So we're always looking for new ideas we can experiment with to find something, and some of those will turn out into good things that help meet those goals. But those are things that we're really concerned with. Keeping customers and developers happy and attracting more. Also for our process, we are adding in more tests. We build weekly, by the way, for our next version, and those builds are available to people who are in our developer programs to receive and try out and give us feedback. So a lot of our customers, if there's a certain feature that's really important to them, we say, okay, we're building it now. They'll download the weekly improvements, try them out, and give us feedback. And this is really good because it makes sure that we are delivering the things that are important to our customers, and it also makes it good for our customers, so when we release it, they're all set to go. They know it works, they've worked with it, and they can immediately begin using those capabilities. We're doing, with store configuration management, doing work and experiments, using it ourselves first before we foist it upon the public. Over the past and even recently, we've made changes to how we do releases. And one of the important philosophies to us is just because it's not broken doesn't mean we can't improve it. We had a release process. It was working pretty good. It was okay, but we said, we can do better. And we made a lot of changes and experimented with things with releases. For example, we started doing weekly builds, semi-automated weekly builds, I should say, and running a battery of tests. Those were some of the process improvements that we made. Other things that we tried with releases, before coming back to Cincom Smalltalk, I was a customer. I worked at a hedge fund where we wrote applications for the traders, and a lot of these applications ran around the clock, 24/7, written in VisualWorks. And we had a lot invested in VisualWorks, hundreds of applications, and to move to a new release was a lot of work. So we couldn't move every major release. So one of the things I thought might be beneficial for us and our customers, and we should experiment with, is how about a longer release? Maybe that's good because the customers can't move to every major release, and also gives us more time to get things in. It was an interesting experiment. We learned a lot. One of the problems that we ran into was having it open for so long and doing so much work. When it came time to make everything work together and get the product out the door, it took too long. So we realized we don't want to go quite that long. We want to bring it into basically an annual release. And also, we want to get those new changes out to customers We don't want to have them wait 1.5 years, 2 years to get those. We want to be much more agile and get them out more frequently. So, but we tried and we learned a whole lot about what we do and we don't want to do. Another thing that happened, we put out a major and a dot release each year. And often that work was simply take what we had and move it out. And some customers, I started getting feedback saying, wait a second, we want a dot release to be basically a better version of the major release, not new stuff. It makes it harder to port to. Our current releases are true maintenance releases and will be that going forward. In the future, expect annual maintenance releases, true maintenance releases. Support also has made modifications with resolutions and resolution bundles coming in the future, for where we have a number of resolutions and we make sure that they work together and are easy for our customers to adopt. Sportsmanship is really important in the Tour de France. And I know Suzanne has been following it for years. She tells me one of the stories where two of the people that were set to win the Tour de France were in contention. Lance Armstrong was one of them, and the other rider crashed. And Lance Armstrong actually stopped, literally stopped, and waited for the other rider. Because he knew he wouldn't want to take advantage of the misfortune. If he wanted to win fair and square. And he got a lot of respect from the other riders for that. In the recent past, there was an incident where a rider dropped their chain and the other rider took off. And that rider won, but received a lot of criticism there's a lot of unwritten rules about how people should behave in a sportsmanlike manner. And we believe in that too. I mean, obviously we're interested in making the most of Cincom Smalltalk products, but we also are interested in Smalltalk in general and for the Smalltalk community moving forward in general. Just a few things Cincom does. We sponsor ESUG, STIC, and other events. Xstreams was open source for the Smalltalk community to adopt. It was work that was done by Smalltalk engineers. And also, of course, we have a for-sale product. The majority of revenues goes into paying Smalltalkers. We have a lot of Smalltalkers on the payrolls, and indirectly we support a whole lot more through partners, customers who start using our products and hire Smalltalkers. So we very much are interested in Smalltalkers doing well and Smalltalk in general doing well. The Cincom Smalltalk team, we're all on the same page. We work together. As a matter of fact, some of the changes I described, like the true maintenance releases, I work with engineering and support to make sure that there's much more collaboration. And in fact, last release, I got some comments from the support team said, this is the closest we've ever worked with engineering on a release. It was great. So a lot of improvements, both internally and hopefully externally. And also, it's really important we have the support of our executive management. They believe in Smalltalk and they are behind us. Comment before Andreas comes up. It's not about the bike. That's a famous book by Lance Armstrong about his trails and biking. It's not about the bike, and just like this, it's not just about Smalltalk. It's about you. It's about you, the people using Smalltalk and our products. So our aim is to help you reach your highest heights in using Cincom Smalltalk products. So please tell us your goals. Talk to me if you're a customer or developer using our products. I want to, even if you're not, if you're just using Smalltalk, say, hey, I have a great idea for you. Please come talk to me. Here are some contacts. Here are some email contacts. I'm the product manager. Suzanne Fortman, she'll be here all week. He's the program director for Smalltalk. And Jeremy Jordan is our marketing guy back home. While we just have a few minutes, I'm going to let Andreas come up. Just tell us a couple things about the new GUI work. Andreas?
Everything we're going to start, what do you think?
Okay, what I'll say is then for that work, and it's great you want to see that, the show us your projects. Can we do that? Yes? Yes. It's worth seeing. I want to see it.